So today we're going to go over the Autodesk Construction Cloud. This is Autodesk's way of bridging the early design phase that they're well known for in AutoCAD, Revit, Navisworks, any of those design softwares, and merging them into the actual construction phase, whether it's going from kind of that initial design, doing things like constructability reviews, detailing for things like fabrication, shop drawings, etc., planning out the build with any type of coordination with the model and on site, and then going into the rest of the flow as it relates to construction. So here, this graphic kind of displays that pretty well, where we're going fully from design all the way through to operation. When we're talking about facilities management or even just owners that are self-operators, all of that is going to be built on and established early on in the design phase, but then added onto throughout the construction phase. Really what this boils down to is Autodesk is looking to have an all-encompassing environment where everyone from the top down, owners, architects, general contractors, to every consultant, every sub-trade that's on the job, has access to the same information at the same time, can collaborate around that information, add additional information to it, and then in the end have ideally a digital twin environment for that facility that was built. So we're going to go through some of these in a little bit more detail so you can see what is in each one of these aspects of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So the first one that we want to talk about is Autodesk Docs. Docs is the foundational element of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. This is where you're going to have your general folder structure that you can see there on the far right. This can be replicated from your existing folder structures if you're utilizing a server or any type of other cloud storage. You can build it out exactly how you see fit for your organization. And we have the ability to access that information through what Autodesk calls the desktop connector. So if you've got Revit files, Navis files stored there, or any other type of file format for that matter, and you want to open it in its native application, so you want to open a Revit file in Revit so you can actually do some editing and manipulation, you can do that with the desktop connector. You have the ability to open them within the cloud environment itself. There's what's called the large model viewer. You'll see that as kind of a secondary image in the background with the model view in the pink there, that pink facade. But that is simply a viewer. We're able to get all of the content information, the property information associated with the different objects and elements within that model. We can navigate around it. We can add additional content to it in the form of markups, issues, RFIs. We can operate around that model, but within the cloud environment, we're not going to do any editing. So if you do need to edit, I highly suggest utilizing that desktop connector function. It looks just like a Windows Explorer environment where you can open up the folder, open up the files, and then make any manipulations or changes. And then when you click save, it's saving it right back up to the Docs environment. One thing that's really, really important and really a huge value for a lot of customers is that document versioning aspect. So it's going to maintain every version throughout the history of that file. So you can go back, you can revert to previous ones if something gets corrupted, if something is a drastic change that shouldn't have happened, maybe an error was made, you can go back to previous versions. And the way that we are able to do that is we don't have any stipulation or I guess limitation as it relates to storage. A lot of the different cloud environments, they monetize it based on storage amount. Within Docs, there is no storage limit. So you can put every version of every model you see fit up there along with all the other documents and files that you might need for the project. The other main thing is that the Docs platform has really a foundational workflow built in with document approvals. And that is really just a preset definition of who is going to approve documents to go from maybe a limited availability to a larger audience. For those of you that have the AEC collection, the Autodesk AEC collection, you have an equivalent license of Autodesk Docs. It's a one-for-one license. So you already have access to this if you have an AEC collection. And if you buy any of the other products within the Autodesk Construction Cloud, whether it's BIM Collaborate or BIM Collaborate Pro, if you're buying Build, if you're buying Takeoff, all of those are going to come with an underlying seat of Docs so that you can have access to that same common data environment as the rest of your team working on the project. And for those of you that say, hey, maybe I just want to get Docs, you can buy that. You can purchase it as a standalone tool. So if you've got a handful of folks that have AEC collections, but you want other people in your organization to access that same information that they're all utilizing and leveraging in the cloud, you can just acquire an Autodesk Docs license. So moving on, Building Connected is kind of where all of the projects get their start. This is a network, if you will, of GCs, owners, and subcontractors. And what it allows for them to do is post projects here. It allows them to then take in bids or submit bids, depending on where you are in the ecosystem. And once, let's say as a general contractor, you receive all the bids, it allows you to do some different comparison of scope, do some scope leveling. And it allows the subcontractors to maybe find some work that they otherwise might not have found. We see this as an amazing fit for organizations that are looking to expand geographically or even in maybe in the industry. So if they historically have done schools, K through 12, maybe they're looking to do a little bit more higher education. They can look specifically for higher ed type projects to bid into. Or if they want to completely go out of the norm and go after hospitals, they can shoot for those projects as well. It allows for things like identifying any type of bonding requirements, any type of insurance requirements, any type of geographical requirements. So if the owner or GC says that you have to be within a certain radius with an office location, et cetera, that can all be input as options for who is qualified to actually bid and work on any of the projects. So it's a really great network. They kind of call it the LinkedIn of the build space, in that it's a database, but it's maintained by the users themselves. So as organizations look to expand, it's not on any one entity to say, hey, this person has verified X, Y, Z and has moved here, and keeping up with that amount of information is complex. We more or less allow the crowd, the network itself, to regulate that and set up their own profiles, et cetera. From there, moving down, let's say we've won a project and we're starting to figure out what this project is going to look like. The next module within the Autodesk Construction Cloud is going to be the Autodesk BIM Collaborate. And there's BIM Collaborate and there's BIM Collaborate Pro. So there's a distinction between the two. That Pro aspect is for anyone that's going to be a Revit user. If they need to operate in a cloud environment with their Revit model, make changes to the model simultaneously with other users, they're going to need that Pro functionality. But for users that aren't Revit savvy and aren't going to be manipulating the model, BIM Collaborate still allows them to see the design collaboration tool set, which is that timeline at the top of the imagery there. And that shows what different design packages have been shared, who's sharing them, and the various milestones associated with them. And it allows them to also see what changes has been made between those different milestones, between those different package shares. Along the path, as we go through those packages being shared, we're going to automatically do clash detection on the models, and we're going to then be able to identify any areas where we're going to have some coordination issues, where we need to make some manipulations to the model, and really set us up for success as we move into the fabrication phase of our project. This also allows us to ignore things that otherwise aren't issues, we can start to identify some of the main issues and get the teams on board for bringing that to a resolution. When we talk about the issues, the really nice thing here is that when we create an issue in the Autodesk Construction Cloud in BIM Collaborate, we have the ability to synchronize that issue down to both Revit and Navisworks, so we can open it in those applications, see it directly in the tool, make the necessary changes to the model, and then record that those changes have been made right in Navis or Revit, and that will all synchronize back up to the cloud automatically. So you're not having to go back and forth between, say, your browser and Revit to figure out where the problem is and get it resolved. You can do it all within the tool that you're utilizing. And again, this is built on document management on Autodesk Docs. So when we're putting a model in here, it is able to automatically be consumed into the BIM Collaborate tool for automated detection. Next, we've got Assemble. Assemble is a very widely used tool because it has so many different use cases. It was a product that was built out and acquired by Autodesk, but it has everything from design reviews where we can make sure that our model is up to par with project standards with our BIM execution plan. You can do aspects of estimating where we're pulling out various quantities and exporting to Excel. We can look at changes as they are produced within the model, and we have an aspect of scheduling associated with the model. Not full-blown 4D scheduling, but we can look at maybe where some aspects of the model are going to be scheduled relative to one another. The other thing that it has that's really important as we move into the building phase is work in place tracking, where we can go object by object and set a status for them to determine how our project is progressing. We can see anything as it's in the fabrication shop, whether it's on shipment or it's arrived on site and yet to be installed, etc. So really great tool for a number of different use cases, and it integrates into the Autodesk Docs environment. So if the model resides there, you don't have to simultaneously load it into Assemble. It can reside within both locations without a whole lot of heavy lifting. Next, we have Autodesk Takeoff, and Takeoff is the way for users within the Autodesk Construction Cloud to leverage both the model and the 2D documents to generate a takeoff from the information generated from Revit. So rather than Assemble is just 3D quantification. You're not going to be able to do anything like an overlay of an area that we can see there in the screenshot to identify certain spaces. You'd have to grab specific property information. Hopefully that area might be designated as a room, and then you could grab that from the model. But if it's not, you're kind of out of luck. In this case here, we can leverage both the 3D model and the 2D drawings associated with the model to do a full-blown takeoff. This is continuing to be built out and added onto so that it can integrate into other pieces of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, including the cost management functionality, including Assemble, so that you can have some interoperability between the various systems. For those of you that have leveraged on-screen Takeoff, this is a really, really relevant one-for-one replacement for that, especially leveraging a 3D model. And then we've got Autodesk Build. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. There is a lot of functionality here. There's a lot of different people that can leverage Build on their projects. When we talk about project management, that's going to be all of your RFIs, your submittals. It's going to manage any type of issues and underlying root causes associated with them. When we're looking at quality management, that's going to quality and safety. Both of those are going to be built on what are called forms, and you have the ability to create punch lists, checklists, specific safety type forms so that we can both measure them and then look at them in hindsight through reporting to ensure that we are maintaining our quality or safety standards on a project. It's also going to have an aspect of project closeout where we're taking all of the various submittal packages that have been generated and sharing them out with the associated teams. There's going to be a full-blown workflow for assigning those submittals and reviewing them. There's also an aspect of cost management. This is cost management for the project. That to be very clear. It's not going to replace your accounting software. It's not going to be your new latest and greatest version of QuickBooks. Can't do a lot of what those accounting softwares can do, but it will help to maintain your project budget, keep your costs in check. It'll manage the change order process. So as you are identifying potential changes, need to get information maybe from the owner or from any suppliers, it can manage all that along with keeping track of your variance from your original budget to where you are now and identifying your cash flow as it relates to your project schedule. So within Build, you can import a project schedule. You're not going to generate a project schedule here. You're not going to keep and maintain a schedule within Autodesk Build. It's going to come from a full scheduling tool like Microsoft Projects or Primavera P6. You can import those here. You can interact with the schedule. You can see it here. You can suggest changes, but you're not going to make actual changes within the Autodesk Build environment. There's another really great function that's part of that project closeout, but it kind of spans the rest of the tool set. It can go into the project management. It can go into quality. It can go into safety as well, even cost, is the assets functionality. It's highly adaptable. You can use it in a number of different ways, but really it's identifying assets on the project and generating statuses for them and tying them to those other pieces of the Autodesk Build environment. So if you had an RFI on a rooftop unit, that rooftop unit could be an asset, and then you can track throughout the project all of the RFIs associated with that RTU. You can see a full-blown history of who did what with whichever asset you might need to identify. So moving on, another tool for helping with that project closeout, but really helping to organize a lot of your submittal process is going to be Pipe. This is a fantastic tool. What it does is it really just reads your specifications and your drawings and will pull out all of your specification sections. All you have to do is create those items are automatically created, I should say, in Build, and then you have to create your packages from that and assign those to the different users. But it's a huge time saving in terms of having to manually enter any information. All of it gets automatically extracted with Pipe. It has an integration today with Autodesk Build. So right out of the box, you can import all of that information directly into Build for the submittal tracking. And I'm being told that this is, in the very near future, going to have an even deeper level of integration into the Autodesk Build environment. The other thing that it can help do is have the closeout process really automated. So in Build, there's some manual aspects to it where you have to gather the submittals and you have to share them with the associated project teams. Here there's a level of automation where it's collecting all of it, sending it in a nice, easy to read format for the parties that might need it. Now getting on to the latest and greatest within the Autodesk Construction Cloud is Autodesk Bridge. Bridge is a fantastic tool. It's still in its infancy, but it's continuing to be developed. Right now, it works with documents where we can synchronize documents across different Autodesk Construction Cloud accounts. So if you think about an owner and a GC and a sub, they may all have their own instances of Autodesk Build. The owners want it because they want to kind of control all of the data. The GC wants it because they're going to be, let's say, controlling all of their project costs through it, both upstream and downstream. And then the subcontractors using it for submitting their RFIs and tracking their RFIs, their document management with their on-site staff, et cetera. All of those different accounts historically have been siloed. They've been their own accounts, their own instances of the project. So if you created an RFI in the subcontractor account, there would be no real easy, good way to get it to the account for the general contractor other than exporting it as a PDF, sending it over to them, and having some level of manual entry to put it into their account. What Bridge will do is it will allow us to share information between those accounts. So today, it functions with the documents aspect, so that underlying tool, Autodesk Docs. So rather than having to go in and download any information, say, out of the general contractor's Autodesk Docs environment and pulling it into your own for your field staff to get access to, or let's say you would just reside entirely inside of the general contractor's Autodesk environment, you wouldn't have the ability to go back and see all the information you put in if, say, the general contractor archived that project. That project no longer exists for you as just one of those end users. So you can still maintain your own environment. You can operate within your account, but it will streamline the information sharing between those different accounts. Again, right now, only works with documents, but very shortly, RFIs, issues, submittals, some of those other aspects of the Autodesk Build toolset will operate within Autodesk Bridge. Bridge can be a manual process or an automated process, depending on what information you want to share. And this is really going to make it easy for the various teams to keep their own record of what's happening on the projects while still being in a collaborative environment, sharing what they need with the rest of the teams. So how else can we connect different stakeholders on a project, right? If this is only working with the Autodesk environment, only working with the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and right now only working with the documents, how can we share further information, whether it's other parts of the tools, RFIs, issues, et cetera, or if it's with other stakeholders or other tools that are out there. What it boils down to is there's a couple of options. You have options. You're not just stuck with this siloed data. The first is going to be 360 Sync. This is a tool that Applied Software developed. And what this allows you to do is, again, still with just documents, but rather than documents exclusively within the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we can get those documents out of the Autodesk Construction Cloud or very easily into it from any one of these different tools. So if you're leveraging Bluebeam, if you're working on a project that's utilizing Procore, if you've got your different cloud storages down there in the bottom left, all of those can be synchronized so that they have the same information. Everyone's working off of the same documents at the same time. And I am really excited to announce that we have added a new integration partner in the 360 Sync ecosystem in Newforma. So for all of those architects and engineers that really love Newforma, it's got that fantastic email integration where it can archive those and allows for fantastic search functionality within Newforma. We can create the documents within Newforma itself, or vice versa. We can pull documents from Newforma and disseminate them out to any of the other tools that you see here on the screen. Right now, 360 Sync is a server-based tool, so it gets installed on someone's machine within your environment that has access to any of the other tools. But also really excited to announce that we're working on having a cloud deployable tool, so it doesn't have to reside on any one individual or any server's machine. It can simply reside in the cloud. So really exciting stuff there to come with 360 Sync as we continue to build out the ecosystem with additional partners and add additional functionality Specifically, when we move to the cloud, there's a lot of different things that we can do with that. I know this is a busy slide, but I think it's busy for a reason. This is the Autodesk Construction Cloud partner environment. This is all of the different tools that are built on Autodesk Forge or the Autodesk Construction Cloud Connect toolset that is a back-end Workato system. So what you see here is what has already been built. So if you are utilizing different tools for different parts of your project, let's say you're using some things for 360 cameras on your project, or you're utilizing some drones, or you're using different accounting software. You can see there we've got CMIC, QuickBooks, Sage, all of the different tools that you have to use, because frankly there is no end-all be-all one tool that's going to do everything. Autodesk Forge and the Autodesk Construction Cloud Connect tools will allow us to integrate them, and we can make it so that the information flows bi-directionally. So it's not just sending information out or receiving it from one of these tools. You can do it both ways and make it very easy and seamless for all the different folks on your project to get access to the same information. So if there is something out there that you need, maybe it's not one of these that are pre-built and ready to go, feel free to reach out to us here. We're happy to scope that and help identify all of the needs for the project and then build something out for you all. So that is the presentation. There is a lot to be excited about within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. A lot of really fantastic updates have been made in terms of new tool sets being added, new functionality being put into the system in the form of something like Bridge, but they're not done. We're not done yet. We are continuing to see Autodesk add investment into the Autodesk Construction Cloud, both in the form of acquisitions of other products and the integration of those products, but also investment into partners like Applied Software that are going out and building tools like 360 Sync or the different integrations to make really operating in the project environment simpler and easier for everyone. So with that, Caitlin, I'll kick it back to you, and we'll see if we have any questions.
Awesome. So we do have a couple. From Jason, he asks, for Autodesk Bridge, don't you need to have an entitlement for build?
You do need to have build for Autodesk Bridge. So if you are trying to bring it over to your own account, you will need to have a build account in order to bring it over. And Jason, I see that came from you. I can reach out to you. We can talk about Bridge and what all it's going to entail and what it has available today. I'll give you a call, man.
Awesome. Next question comes from Jorge, who asks, does Bridge allow a user to link a Revit file in another company's hub?
It does, yep. So that Revit file can be stored in both hubs, if you will, and it can automatically sync between the two. So depending on the level of trust, right, that tends to be a big thing within the Autodesk Construction Cloud is what is the trust factor? How are we going to share this information? You have the ability to link that Revit file within the other company's hub. So what you would do is with Bridge, you would bring it to your own environment, and then you can operate like you would if you owned it in your own environment anyway. There's some caveats there, right? You have to have permission, if you will, from the other hub. So you can't just go in and grab it. They have to allow or grant access. So there is a little bit of checks and balances there as it relates to permission, but we can discuss that in further detail as well.
Awesome. We also have a couple questions from Eric. First one is, Autodesk is transitioning all of its software platforms to Forge and cloud-hosted servers as stated during the AU keynote last year. given the increasing importance of cloud services, why are extra BIM Collaborate Pro subscriptions required to share models, publish GBXML files, etc.?
Yeah, I think really what it boils down to there, Eric, and to be frank, is shareholders. Autodesk is beholden to its shareholders. They like to see that stock price going up and up and up. And one way that they do that is to continue to monetize their different users. So with BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro, they're monetizing their largest customer base in the form of Revit users. What I think we'll start to see is a continued transition to the cloud environment, whether that's with the design tools actually going to the cloud as cloud computing becomes more and more powerful. Maybe eventually Revit gets entirely into the cloud and you don't have a secondary tool that allows you to operate in a cloud shared model. Or we look to see, and we've already started this, there is an aspect of bundling all of the Autodesk Construction Cloud together. So like we have our AEC collections where it's just, hey, if you're going to buy 2 of these tools, you might as well just get a collection because it's price prohibitive to do otherwise. We're starting to see that transition with the Autodesk Construction Cloud as well. Whereas you can go and you can buy Docs, you can buy BIM Collaborate, you can buy Build, all of those separately. We now have the ability to bundle a lot of those together, make it so that the contract terms are the same, that we don't have to worry about a ton of different user requirements and number of users. We have the ability to create that as one singular contract and make it easier. So I think right now we're kind of in that transition period as you see Forge and the cloud becoming more important. Where we're going to hopefully get is where it's all encompassing.
Awesome. And we have one last question from Eric. He says, are there any efforts underway to standardize manufacturer data, such as parameters in Revit families? Is it free-for-all currently?
There are. I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that on the mechanical side with database like SMACNA that allows users to just pull from an existing database of families. But I think we'll start to see that more and more as we move into the digital twin environment because companies like or organizations like Kobe or companies, owners, whether that's hospitals, universities, they're going to want a standardization as well. Historically, they haven't really required that because, frankly, they didn't really get access to a lot of the parameters within Revit once it's been built. Right? A lot of those parameters are put in place by design teams, and then they're used almost never with the rest of the project. So as we see that use case for parameters continue to be built out downstream, I think that standardization is going to come into play more and more frequently.